Hello and welcome to the final Finn's Forza Fixerupper of the season. And as always, I'll be taking one of the over 640 cars in Forza Horizon 4 and giving them a bit of a makeover. To add a bit of variety, I'm going to use Forza's own Wheelspin feature to pick today's car. The Porsche number 23 917/20. Let's see what we can do with this one. The Porsche number 23 917/20, also known as the Pink Pig, was a prototype race car boasting a 5-speed manual transmission and rear-wheel drive. The engine, housed behind the driver, produces a smidgen over 600 brake horsepower. The primary concept for the 917 was minimal drag and maximum aerodynamic efficiency. The Pink Pig still holds the fastest lap time at Circuit des Arts at Le Mans, at 3 minutes and 13 seconds. Let me put that another way. The second place lap time posted by the Audi R18 e-tron Quattro in 2017 lost out by a single second. Want to know when it was set by the Porsche? 1971. It's so swift that even 40 years later, today's race cars struggle to beat it. The Porsche 917 hasn't had it easy though. Despite reaching as high as 3rd place during that year's 24 Hours Le Mans, it ended up finishing an abysmal 7th place following a brake failure. This butcher's shop design is the very same livery that raced that summer in the 70s. Now, the Pink Pig resides in Porsche's Stuttgart Zuffenhausen Museum in southeast Germany. A fitting tribute for a racing legend. Today, it will get yet another chance to redeem itself from the ashes of defeat and show today's racers that it most certainly ain't done yet. First step is giving the 917 a nice new set of shoes. Incorporating these racing tyres will allow us to cling to the road surface much easier. We're strengthening the wheels by adding these 6-spoke Volk Racing TE37 rims. Next, we're unleashing the raw power of that Group 6 engine by removing that restrictor plate. The Pig is a rather heavy boy, so we're going to combat this with lighter racing pistons. The engine block itself is remodelled and polished to a racing standard, and the digitally assisted fuel system is installed. We'll correct history's oversight and throw out the old braking system for a higher performance set. The Porsche gets another massive boost of performance by installing twin turbos. Finally, let's absolutely smash that performance index and improve stability further by rerouting the power to all 4 wheels. Oh yeah, X-Class baby. As much as the pink pig design is iconic, it doesn't really scream touring car, so we're going to start over with a cool turquoise paint job. The front grille is sprayed with a complementing shade of grass green, and the TE37 rims are recoloured to match. Dark green tinted windows are installed to finish off the cosmetics. Onto the decals now, and taking direct inspiration from the performance index, a large cursive X is plastered on top of the Porsche. This is emphasised further with a duo of progressively darker green shadows underneath. Any gaps in the vinyl are patched up, and the legs of the X are of course extended over the front and rear quarter panels with complementary squares and triangles. The front bumper is patched up like the cabin. As is the rear wing. Is it just me, or does it look like Austin Powers and the Riddler had a baby here? So we're moving on to these blank spaces between the wheel arches. Taking a vertical 50% gradient square, we stretch this into a long strip, turning it 45 degrees and finding it a twin. Superimposing these strips across each other, flipping them on the horizontal axis, forms another X shape and a slightly 3D design. They're adjusted slightly to make them narrower and fit more copies in later. The colour is changed for a more muted turquoise shade to look like faux embossing. There's a bit too much overlap in the centre of our X, so we'll block this out with a simple square vinyl, matching the same colour as the bodywork behind. We'll follow this up with a gradient square in each corner and a turquoise strip at both axes. As mentioned earlier, this is then tessellated along the width of the gap between the green strips and sent behind them to make the rooftop X stand out. If we now copy these onto the other side, we don't have to fiddle around with the layers afterwards. These designs continue onto the front grille and add contrast to the darker green beneath. The rear fins are looking a little bare, but never fear, for we have a plan for those, and it involves a decal editor. Upper letters 3 provides us with a delicate cursive font. Using our tried and tested technique, we copy and paste lowercase letters and replace them to form the rest of the word. A cursive O and C-shaped curve are combined to form the flourish on the F in fin. A The whole thing is then grouped, copied and changed colour to magenta. Shifting this slightly northwest forms a shadow underneath, which will promptly tint a lighter shade of pink. We'll repeat this process again for the third highlight before moving on to the next word. The next word is incredibly simple to make, consisting of just the basic upper letters 1 font tinted grey. Another darker layer is added on top to draw sharp contrast. These are then tucked under the previous word and repositioned slightly to make it look like it was scrawled on in pen afterwards. The final word is a bit trickier to assemble, but it consists of many different fonts and styles. Starting with lower letters 1, we'll position the grey F under the text and skew it slightly to italicise it. The I is formed from an upper letters 10 font, painted brown, widened and skewed to match the previous character. For the third letter, we're choosing the grey Wild West font. I almost used a number 3 for the fallen E, but ultimately decided that a charcoal upper letter 6 text looked a bit better. We're returning to the cursive font for the 5th letter. Upper letter 7 forms the basis of the remaining half of the word. We're ditching the greys and browns of old and transitioning from a light pink to a deep crimson. Now the text is blocked out, let's group it all up and fill the entire page with it. If you correctly guessed earlier that it was a series logo we're making, you'll notice that the R, U and P characters are missing a little bit of extra detail. Let's add these on now. The dotted lines around the U and P are added with an alternating border of red squares and rectangles. For the cogs in the R, grey squares are placed around the upper loop. Next, a black circle is added to the centre of the loop, followed by several others of varying sizes and colours to get that industrial look. The stalk is thickened with a grey rectangle. And square teeth are readjusted again to incorporate the larger outer circle. And it's done. Just need to group it all up now a final time and save the design. Returning to the Porsche, the first logos fill the blank fins at the rear. Then we're adding a larger one, pride of place, right on the nose of the 917. The touring car still needs a registration plate. This is compiled from a tall black rectangle and a mint square, leaving a millimetre thick black border at the bottom edge. Finn's 6th Fixerupper Faction Racing League acronym is added with upper letters 11. It was tempting to use the same cursive X from the roof in place of the racing number, but the numeral was ditched in favour of the number 10, as it would be more recognisable, especially at great speed. These are subtly tinted dark green to stand out against the lighter background. This is again grouped up and pasted onto the other side, as well as the roof and rear spoiler. Onto the decal editor now for the aftermarket racing decals. Forza Horizon 4 contains a modest selection of aftermarket logos, but it's by no means an exhaustive list, so we're making our own. Thin blue rectangular strips form the dark blue border. Blue triangles top off the legs of the A and the M. A thin curve is used to separate the middle letter. This is further bolstered with more rectangular strips and small right angle triangles. The central hole is outlined by 2 semicircles. With the framework done, we group up the design and start to fill in the letters with colour. Most of the design is filled with skewed yellow rectangles, but finer selections are highlighted in triangles. Finally, the whole thing is once again grouped up and sent behind the outline we just made to fill in the decal. To save time, as this episode is already running long, I won't show the construction of the other aftermarket decals. But let me know down in the comments which ones I'm lampooning here. We're also borrowing from episode 4 to fill space in at the rear of the vehicle as well as the sides. We're using the Lobo decal again to fill in the space at either side of the front bumper. Another trope in touring cars, besides sponsors decals being absolutely everywhere, is a strapline or an address to some brand or product. So we're going to use a DTG YouTube link here instead. And that's it, the Porsche's transformation is complete. Thank you so much guys for joining me on this first season of Finn's Forza Fixerupper. I've really enjoyed souping up this Porsche. I thought I'd challenge myself to pick a car that's already souped up and designed to hell, to kind of give it a bit of an upgrade and see what I can do with somebody else's design really. It's quite fast, it's a little bit unpredictable when it comes to the handling. It can just fly off on any corner it wants to because it feels like it. It's a little bit like driving a Scalextric's car in the fact that if you give it too much juice on a corner it will just fly off and just forget the corner is even there and just go off on an off-roading trip. The power in it is amazing. This is like the first car in my Forza history personally that I've managed to get to Class X organically. My favourite parts of the car have to be putting the logo in the fins as a nice added touch. I do like that.
By now you've seen how it matches up, and this is normally the point where I let it loose on Mortimer Gardens to see how quick it is compared to the original. But as it is the season finale, and with a little help from my friends, we're going to try something a little bit different.